welcome, Shabir. Nice to have you on this show.
Hi, thank you very much.
So, how was the lockdown been for you in Singapore?
I think it was a time where I learned about my own strengths and my own weaknesses, and it made me channel all this into an album. So I wrote an album called the Lockdown EP, and I've already released one single called Yeruvum, and the next one is coming, and the full EP will drop sometime in August.
Okay. So, right now you have released this single, Thedi Choru.
Yeah.
So, can you tell me how this project came into place?
So I've always been involved in the scene when it comes to Tamil language promotion in Singapore for quite a long time, probably since 2011, I think, around there. Yeah. And I've always been one of those because there are four languages in Singapore, which are, the main languages, right? And one of it is Tamil, English, Tamil, Malay, and Mandarin. And I think it's our responsibility as citizens of the country and people who love the language to ensure that the language is thriving in this country. We don't want it to just be a ceremonial language 20 years from now, where it's there, but people are not speaking it, people are not experiencing it, people are not, absorbing it. So we don't want such a situation. So I think the citizen involvement is extremely important. So more than an artist, I think I saw myself as someone who needs to contribute in my little way to the language. So that's how I started. And then I realized that I have music. So I've got Tamil on one hand, I've got music on one hand, and I can combine this and find new interpretations to bring it to audiences. And in that spirit, I wrote the Tamil National Day song for Singapore in 2012 because I thought we need it because we don't have a updated National Day song in Tamil. So I wrote it, and from there it kind of started slowly. It started, I wrote the Tamil language month campaign songs, and then I did this program called Yedugai, which was to reach out to teenagers and kind of imbibe the love of the language through songs and lyrics. And then it brought me to various paths, and I've been very active. I was in the executive committee of Tamil Language Learning and Promotion Committee in Singapore, which is part of the Ministry of Education. And so I've been involved in that sense quite for a long time. And finally, I think the culmination of all that resulted in creating something like Thedi Choru, where we want to use the language not just as a language, but the wisdom that the language withholds, and use that wisdom and transfer that wisdom to people through music and poetry.
Okay. So, any specific reason for choosing Thedi Choru?
Personal reasons, actually, because when I was because I'm born and bred in Singapore, but I was in India, and at that point Saga did not take off yet, and I was told that the movie is going to release in 2016. So my director told me, "Ninga vandrunga," he said, please come, and be here, he said. And then I said, okay, I'll come. And then I didn't know at that point, I was naive, I didn't know that films will take a long time to release. If they say this year, it might take a year, 2, 3, 4, you won't know. I didn't know that. So I thought, because in different parts of the world, when working, when something is scheduled, it releases as per schedule. But I understood through the hard way that India depends on momentum, depends on whether the political climate and everything else is suitable for a release, financial elements and all that. So then when I came, I had to wait for. Eventually, Saga only released in 2019, actually. So that whole year was complete disappointment for me because I didn't sign to any other films. I was just there in India. And then slowly the jobs in Singapore started to deplete because people thought that I've moved to India. So it was a very challenging and lonely time for me. And at that point, I would take Thedi Choru and recite the poem like a mantra. And when I recite it, I always gain strength. When I was lonely, I fell back into Bharathiyar. So this is not what do I say? In any way, it is not a job for me to do Thedi Choru. It is not even my independent portfolio. It is not my film portfolio. It's not commission. It's nothing. It is just it's passion, and it's this wisdom that Bharathiyar has, and overall the Tamil language has, because there's others like Tirukkural and Naladiyar. I just want to be the one of the channels who can bring this wisdom to people. So Thedi Choru was the first because it's very personal for me.
And was it a factor like the line "Non Milve and Nenitayo" is something that has become extremely popular these days,
Mm.
especially after Rajnikant's use of the line in Peta.
Mm.
So, influence this in any way?
No, I think Peta only came last year, if I'm not wrong, right? So I've been using this for myself since probably not very early on. So I've probably been using Nan Virve and Indian Initai since about maybe 2014, if I'm not wrong. And
Okay,
it came to my rescue in 2016. Because
okay,
we're so vulnerable, we human beings, right? So we don't know what we will resort to. We don't know whether we will fall ill, or we don't know whether our depression and loneliness might lead us to end ourselves. You know what I'm saying? There's so many things. So when people say that art is non-essential, I think it sometimes it really depends, because at that moment this poetry was essential to me to save myself.
okay. So, how did you go about in terms of musical approach to the song? Uh,
So I spoke to the Tung ensemble, and we wanted to do something where, there are a lot of migrant workers from Tamil Nadu who are here in Singapore, and they are feeling very low because they're separated from their families and their home, and they're here and they're waiting, to actually recover and go back to work, or possibly maybe even go back home. So we wanted to uplift their spirits at this point, by using the poem, but also at the same time, when I thought of how can I create the music for this particular piece, I wanted to try something different, because here in Singapore, when we do something, we are in a multicultural, multiracial society. So it is not just about the Indian community and Tamil community. We also want to reach out to the Chinese community and the Malay community, and get them to also appreciate, understand our language, and our culture and our poetry and things like that. So I thought collaborating with Tung Ensemble will build that bridge, because they are a Singapore, a Chinese music ensemble, and they really enjoyed the poem, and I told them the meaning, and they knew about Bharathiyar after I explained to them. So I think this is my way of also building bridges with the other communities and communicating, the richness that the Tamil language has to them as well.
okay. So the instrumentation is actually very different in this song. Generally, when you take a motivational number, you start with a bang and then it keeps building up and building up. In this one, it starts on a relatively low note, as if someone is talking to themselves, and
Mm.
then it is
Yeah.
into an anthem. So, was this intentional?
Yeah. It was intentional. I think it required a lot of confidence from the label and everybody, everybody part of the team, because this is a day and age of like TikTok and 2 minutes and 2.5 minute songs, on YouTube and streaming platforms. Nobody has the patience and time to sit down and watch a 7 minute video of a guy talking and then going into a song, gradually building, right? So when we present something like that, naturally people will say that there will be some questions. Will this work? And there will be other challenges also, like people will ask, என்னங்க நம்ம ஆளுங்களை குத்துப்படுத்தா கேட்பாங்க, இதெல்லாம் எப்படி appreciate பண்ணுவாங்க, அதெல்லாம் இருக்குது. Definitely it's there. People will say that, how people only listen to kutu songs, how will they appreciate? Then they've got this bad habit of dividing audiences into B and C and all these kind of categories, which I don't quite agree with. So it was challenging in some areas, but I think it required not just me but my entire team's confidence in this particular piece of work, and understanding that there are people who will benefit from this. So certainly this was a conscious decision, but it also took a lot of self-confidence in ourselves and our work to do something like that, and support from the entire team.
So this marrying of these Eastern instruments with a literature that is distinctly Tamil, how easy was it actually?
Um, it just happened. It just like came together like milk and honey. Actually, we didn't have any conflicts when we were working with Tung Ensemble. In fact, a lot of credit to them, seriously, because I composed the melody with the poem and I gave it to them, and then we started working, and they just understood and absorbed the melody, and then they came up with these ideas. And of course, we had some suggestions, and there were some changes that we made along the way. But it was such a smooth process, actually. Like these East Asian instruments melding with the Tamil poetry written by the great one of the greatest poets to ever walk this planet. It was such a spiritual and divine experience, all these things coming together.
So did this happen remotely or did you guys get together and jam and
No, we couldn't meet because it happened during the circuit breaker. In Singapore, when they locked down, they call it the circuit breaker.
okay.
So, so you can go out limitedly to get essentials and all that, but you cannot hang out and all that. So we couldn't meet. We worked. Everything was done remotely, including speaking with Think Music, making them understand the direction and the idea, and gaining their support to initiate this. Everything was done remotely.
Okay. So how challenging is it to work remotely? Or as musicians, the music industry has over the last few years been using remote working as a style to work.
Yeah.
So does that help, or is it still challenging for a musician?
I think it certainly helps because we were sort of kind of prepared for a situation like that, because we have worked remotely for a very long time, and primarily because I've worked on a total of 7 films, including my Telugu films in India, right? And I'm from Singapore, and I do shuttle because there are always jobs and work to do in Singapore. So this remote working is something very normal for me. In fact, it was even more relaxing now because I used to, in my 4 hour flights to Chennai, I used to sit down and still work and do all the other stuff. So now it's like I'm just in one place, and now you don't have like the what's that? My Indian counterparts who I work with asking when are you coming and when can we meet. So they have now accepted that, okay, let's work remotely, let's work on Zoom. So that it's kind of making the process a bit more seamless for me now. I get more time to create an idea.
So do you think exposure to this style of working will make filmmakers here open to the idea of collaborating with a musician who is not based in Chennai uh, more? Will they be more open to towards this thing?
Yes, it'll slowly they will get a bit more open. Like even now itself, the younger ones are totally cool. They don't even meet actually. They just want you to mail the track, they listen to it, they'll write you back, they'll give the feedback. So but different generations and different work cultures. So for them, many of them they still want to meet and physically sit down and work together. Many of them are very comfortable with just initially meeting once, and then in between you don't even see them. They just give you, and my Telugu film, that's how I did, because the director was completely fine working on email and messages. So I was pretty much in Chennai when I worked on that film, although the
Okay.
film was happening in Hyderabad. So it depends, but I think more and more folks will kind of embrace the idea of working remotely, which saves time, resources, energy.
No, where I am coming from is that after Saga, you haven't done that many films given the kind of reach that the songs of the film had. So I just want to know if this is a barrier in.
It is certainly a barrier because I only, from Saga, I've done total 7, and one of it is Telugu. And now I'm on my 7th film, Sinam, Arun Vijay's 30th film. It is definitely a barrier because I only changed my base to Chennai last year. I only changed base last year. So 2016 I signed to Saga. 17 I was in Singapore, based in pretty much in Singapore. 18 also I was based in Singapore. So it took me some time to shift and get an office and plant my feet firmly in India. And then we started getting a lot of offers. In fact, we were about to sign 2 Tamil films and one more in Telugu, and then came COVID-19 coronavirus, and then everything is
Okay.
on hold right now. Yeah.
So after Saga, though the other albums haven't really been as exciting as that one, what actually happened there? Is it
So I think Dillu Ku Dudu, it's a lot about the scope also that the film and the album offers. Saga was a serious film with a potential to have some serious songs, a love song, and Atadi, the more peppy love song, and then there was a pathos number, and there was a whole range in Saga. But when it came to, like, for an example, a film like Dillu Ku Dudu, it was very comedy oriented. So there was limitations to what you could create, in the film itself. And then Nia, honestly, it's actually quite sad because it's not like the songs were bad. There were people who really liked the song, and we even had a review, if I'm not wrong, from the Times in itself, saying that the songs were good. And unfortunately, the film didn't do well at all from the very beginning. From the trailer itself, people didn't quite like the idea of the film, the concept. And then unfortunately songs always bear the brunt of that. It's no longer divided. It's now together, you know. And a very okay average song can perform a little bit better if the film is a hit and people like the film. This has been the fate of composers in Tamil Nadu. And for NNOR, honestly, I'm happy with the response. You know, we did with Black Sheep. We catered to a certain audience, the online audience. They all like the song. Even until today, we get a lot of shares and retweet about the song. And I think it's crossed a few millions on YouTube and all that. Given the fact that it was a new face film, small team and all that, so we that film I'm happy. And my Telugu debut also I was very happy because the Gadilo Kira song was a hit, and all the Hyderabad media wrote very well about the re-recording and the song as well. So I think it's been a mix, and the mix is due to the kind of films, and of course that brings you to learn to choose your films also moving forward. Like what do you want to do with your films? If you want to stand musically, then you have to see whether the film has a commercial scope. These are questions, as in for the album, these are questions we end up asking. So when I signed Cinem, it answered all the questions. It's perfect because it's like Saga kind of genre. I mean, of course, it's gonna be even more more fulfilling than Saga, given the fact that the team that has come together and it's not a new team. So we have a scope for the story and scoring. We also have a very good scope for the album.
And it's also more star-driven project that you have done so far, right?
Exactly, and you see, I mean, the truth is, I've done all these albums and songs, right? And the truth is, every film of mine that I've done, I never wrote on a star power. If you see my entire graph, my career graph, it is not a case of where you have to even enter, you have a good hero and then you start. Like if Yayum was done by a certain star or what, the song would have gone on a different level, and then after that you get into the whole doing movie for heroes category. That is a totally different category, you see. So I didn't start like that, but I'm grateful because we start slow, we start small, then we can build, we can learn, we have time to learn. So for me, it's like we had to stand on our own feet. I had to stand on my own feet because new hero, and we still made a song, reach out and stuff. And then there are other denominators like how well, like of course, as I mentioned, whether the songs are suitable for the film and the commercial market. Number two, how much of director and producer intervention there is in the album production. How much freedom they're going to give you, and then how much can you fight to get that freedom? To the point, does it turn sour? Then it does. Then you have to back off and finish the project well. Third thing is how well the label is willing to promote it. Are they working on the period on big movies? Are they releasing at the same time? Then there's a possibility this album might get overshadowed at that point. It's a timing thing also. So there's so many factors coming together, you see. And the truth is, so far I've done all these albums and I've gained like the millions of views on the songs, right? Not just on Saga, but the Telugu song and Nenjamundu Nirmi Undu. I have not had Anirudh or Sid Sriram in any of my songs. And they are like key factors nowadays for a song to become a hit. Anirudh, is he singing? Is Sid Sriram singing? This is what everybody's asking, you see. So manage to give these hits without these major names is, in my humble opinion, is also a little bit of a feat. I did my best with whatever that I had, resources that I had. These things they do matter, I think, in something becoming a hit, or it performing just okay.
So from now on, will your approach to choosing projects be a little different from what it was so far?
Yeah, I think definitely I'm asking more questions now, because when you're new, people tell you the panning is good for you. Then you're like, oh, pretty okay, and you're not even from Chennai. You don't even understand the industry. But as you grow and you learn a little bit, you're still learning. I mean, that will never stop. But as you learn, I think you develop the intuition that okay, this is my strength, and these are the kind of films which are working in terms of both film and song. Then I decide to choose stuff like that. So there have been like about 5 films in recent times which I've turned down due to various reasons. And one of the most common reasons would be, yeah, the film is good, but there's no scope for the music. Then what's the point? Then you end up racking another film where you're not going to be able to contribute largely to the songs or the re-recording. So these are now questions I'm asking. So it's no longer about signing a film. It's about whether does it help me progress with my career, or is it going to keep me stand still, or is it going to be regressive? So these are questions which I'm asking.
So other than Cinem, is there any other project that you're currently working on?
I signed another one called November Marayil Nanum Avalum. which is
Okay.
a very small film and a very beautiful story between musicians, a blind musician, and a servant in an orchestra. And the reason why I chose the film is because it's got 6 songs and they're all musical songs. So it's like a kind of like a dream album for a composer. So that project is going on, and then the other project is in. Sorry.
Your title seems quite musical.
Yeah, it does. Right, sounds a bit poetic. And then another film is in Telugu. I've signed another film as well. But honestly, to be brutally honest, we don't know what will take off when now. Actually, except because cinema is fortunate because it's finished. We're
Mm,
in post production right now. The other films, one of it just started to shoot. The other one has not even started to shoot.
okay.
So it's a bit of a question mark, but it's okay. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, Shabir. Nice talking to you.
Thank you.
Love
Thank you so much.